Welcome to Confessions by Banana Ketchup. I had a strange encounter with a creepy old guy in the elevator of our apartment complex. This happened around Christmas of 2018. It was the last week before holidays. Date: December 18th, 2018. I had returned from college. This whole day was just professors coming in and giving us assignments since we will be on a break from 22nd. I wanted to get home ASAP that day because I had finally gotten Red Dead Redemption 2 and wanted to set it all up on my computer. So I took the first bus. Even though it was a bit crowded, here we have student passes, so bus rides are free for us, so we usually wait for bus with empty seats. My mind was completely drowned in Red Dead Redemption. Time: 3:15 p.m. I got off the bus and started crossing the road. While I was almost done crossing the road, I heard someone call my name from the stop. Since I was in a state of daze, my presence of mind was missing for a moment. So I turned around. There was no one at the bus stop. I stood still for a moment in confusion. Then I was shook awake by a loud and sudden honk. I instinctively jumped out of fear. A car had come to a screeching halt right in front of me. I could see the skid marks on the road. The driver got off and started verbally abusing me. I don't know if it was the adrenaline, but I was wide awake. But at the time, my mind has turned into autopilot mode. Words and sound were just muffles to me. I droned off onto the pavement and headed right to my apartment complex, completely ignoring everyone else. Time: 3:20 p.m. I stood at the front door of my apartment complex and buzzed in. Our complex has a system of 24-hour security, and to go in, you have to be visually verified by security, either through window or security camera at the front. I'm well acquainted with the building's security staff, so they let me in immediately. The door closes automatically. I live in the second floor. Being a young college-going guy, I obviously take the elevator even though there are stairs right next to it. The building has a total of 5 floors, including the basement parking lot. While I walked to the elevator, I just remembered that I had kept my Bluetooth speaker in our car, and I needed to take it to college the next day. My friends were practicing for a dance performance. So, when I entered the elevator, which was empty at the time, I decided that I'd get the speaker from the car. I pressed for basement floor, then I went and get the speaker. I walked back to the elevator, and while doing that, I noticed that someone was at the elevator's door too. It was some old guy. My estimate is around late 60s or early 70s, wearing a gray windbreaker and a beige biscuit-colored hat. He was a rather short person. I'd say less than 5.5 feet, 165 centimeters. As I was putting the speaker and the fob into my backpack, I noticed the back of his head, and it was peppered with gray hair. He went in and stood by the right corner, and I to the center with the wall to my back. I went ahead and pressed the 2 button for my floor. I didn't see any other button pressed. In hindsight, I should have found this weird, but I wasn't exactly in the moment then. The elevator door closed. I felt it started moving. As soon as I looked up, I could see a sort of blurred reflection of the old guy on the metal surface of the elevator door. And I don't know if he saw me watching him or not, but the moment I looked, it must have been a span of only a couple of seconds. His face in the reflection started moving, and it appeared that he had this unnatural, sort of menacing grin on his face. I felt as if my heart came to my mouth. I felt a distinct feeling of fear and concern for my own safety. My entire body was in a sort of high alert mode. As my heart started racing uncontrollably, so much so that I hear it pounding. Then, all of a sudden, the elevator dinged. I looked at the panel. 2 is still glowing. I'm terrified beyond anything. the elevator door opened. It was the ground floor. I don't know what happened, but some kind of survival instinct took over me, and I walked straight out of the elevator without thinking. I heard the guy move too. I'm almost in a state of panic. I took a hard left and walked straight to one of the apartments where a friend of mine lived. I yelled her name loud as I walked towards the door, which, I had noticed, was slightly cracked open. I hear the guy move out right behind me. But as I took the turn and started talking loudly, I could hear him go the opposite way towards the front door. I followed calling her name with a question about whether she knew where my mom was. In fact, I knew my mom was at her friend's house down the road. My friend replied from inside, telling me she was coming, and a couple of seconds later she opened her door. By this time, based on the footsteps and me hearing the elevator door close, the guy should be halfway to the front door. So I quickly turned around so I could confront him or something. But to add to my utter confusion, there was no one in the corridor. I asked my friend if she saw where the other guy behind me went, because when she opened her door, she was at angle. She couldn't miss seeing anyone behind me. She said she didn't see anyone and continued to inform me about my mother's whereabouts, which I already knew. I said okay and decided to take the stairs. I went halfway up to the first floor, but I couldn't contain. So I came back down and decided to check the elevator. So I pressed the call button. The elevator door immediately opened. There was no one inside. I felt relieved, but at the same time, there is no possible way the elevator could have gone up to my floor and returned back. Also, nobody had a call for it until I did. So it couldn't have come back. I peek inside. The panel is off. The only explanation was if the elevator hadn't gone up at all. I took a quick walk to security room and asked the guy at the window, who was the guy that came there? For which they promptly asked, what guy? And after I asked them again, they said they didn't see anyone get past the front door, which was true because I didn't hear the buzz too. So basically, the guy had vanished into thin air. I was upset for some reason, so I walked back and went to my home by stairs and locked my room. It was such a short and exhausting experience that I just threw my bag on the sofa and went to bed. After I woke up, I got busy with family stuff, and it sort of faded from my mind. Then I got busy with study stuff. 2 days later, I came down with fever. I don't know if it was connected, but by the time I recovered, the holidays had already begun, and I was busy with some assignments and Red Dead Redemption that I finally installed. So, the Friday after Christmas, I just remembered the whole thing. One thing about our apartment complex is that it's ridden with CC cameras. There is no way one could get past without getting caught in one. So, I decided to investigate. I went and asked security to let me check the footage of that day, and to my disappointment, I was the only one in it, including the elevator camera. The only thing I had was the second floor button turning off inexplicably after the elevator door closed behind me when I walked out. I duly pointed out that to the security, but they said that it was some kind of malfunction and that they will have it looked at. I also, despite my gut feeling, believed that malfunction was a rational reason. As a person who generally don't believe in this stuff, I have rationalized the situation that what I saw was just some hallucination, which, although I doubt, because of how real and detailed the experience was. That my mind was playing tricks for me. That it somehow was related to my unexpected almost involvement in a possible fatal accident a few moments earlier that day. What do you think? Was this real or just some sort of hallucinations this guy was having? Let me know what you think down below. See you again in 2 days with new stories, and until then, please be safe. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. If you already didn't, subscribe.